Welcome back into the college football every game on the board podcast. Next section up, it's our last section with our closer at Teddy_covers on Twitter. Teddy, welcome in. How you feeling today, buddy?
I'm doing all right, Drew. I mean, it's been a heck of a week. You know, Monday we were down at Circa. Tuesday we had the election that you end up staying up all night. So we ended up being a little bit behind in terms of normal prep for Monday and Tuesday. So basically we just sat all day yesterday and got as much done as we possibly could. And looking forward to another good weekend. Last weekend, as good as it gets. I didn't lose a game.
Coming off of an undefeated weekend, I would think that you're going to ride this hot streak into this weekend, Teddy. And heck, we had Maction this week, Maction next week, and then into Thursday, Friday, Saturday college football, and then Sunday NFL. So you guys get the drill. On this segment, guys, the Every Game on the Board podcast, we're going 381, 382. That's the cocktail party, Florida, Georgia, down to the end of the card here. We're talking every single American football game, both NFL and college football here, simulcast on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, wherever you're downloading your podcasts at, the Sports Memo podcast, so you can go back and watch it all. But on this episode, 381, 382, in rotation order, down the rest of the college football card. Here we go, Teddy. 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific on CBS. We're talking the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Number 8 ranked Florida Gators versus number 5 ranked Georgia Bulldogs. We're seeing Georgia -3 in the hook, 52.5 being the total in Jacksonville.
It's not in Jacksonville.
Is it not? Okay, I was waiting for this.
But it's definitely people think it's in Jacksonville still. I think that the betting markets have people think it's Jacksonville. This is moved from Jacksonville to Athens due to pandemic concerns. So this will be played on a campus site for the first time since 1995. Otherwise, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party has been in the neutral site, not this year. So it's worth noting.
And Teddy, great catch on that. You bring up the betting markets even reflecting that. Teddy, I went back. There's Sports Illustrated, College Football News, and FanDuel are all reporting this in Jacksonville. I just want to throw that out there. I don't know if that's reflective in the betting markets, but there is definitely misinformation on where this game is being played.
Sure. So my information says that it's going to be played in Athens. All that said, Georgia has some issues right now. Okay, they have a whole bunch of injuries. A star wide receiver, George Pickens, wasn't available last week. He got the team high in catches and receiving yards and touchdowns last year and is pretty hot. Starting safety, Lewis Sine, he left last week's game hurt. Junior nose tackle, Jordan Davis, may be able to play. He fractured his elbow, but I'm not convinced that's the case. And that, again, a preseason third string all SEC pick. You have Julian Rochester, starting defensive tackle, lost for the season with a torn ACL. So there's a fair few injuries on the Georgia side right now. And of course, the offense hasn't been good in recent weeks. The former walk-on Stenson Bennett, the fourth as a QB, 5 interceptions the last couple of ball games. This is one time where Dan Mullen has a clear QB edge against Kirby Smart, thanks to Heisman candidate Kyle Trask. And it's certainly worth noting that when you're talking about a coach who has a pretty good track record catching points, Florida's been a dog 7 times in the Dan Mullen era. They failed to cover only one of those point spread, and they won outright in 4 of those 7 tries. Georgia won 24-17 last year, 36-17 in 2018. I wouldn't be surprised this time around if it's Florida that comes away with a straight-up victory.
You get the better quarterback and catching points. I'm interested in that profile, Teddy. But the better defense on Georgia's side, in between the hedges, we're going with this being in Athens. I'm surprised that the line moved from 6 to 3.5. And as we're talking about the location of this game, you've been doing this for quite some time, Teddy. Have you ever seen the kind of miscommunication in such a marquee game and where it's being played? And it's already Thursday. You have?
Yes, okay. I have. I mean, look, the neutral site games where one team's listed at the bottom, oftentimes people miss that. Mm-hmm. It's not unusual in college football. It's not unusual in college basketball. And you expect the broader markets to pick up on it at some point. But, of course, how much home field edge is there between edges this year? And not as much as there would be in a normal season.
All right, let's head to the group of 5 conferences here. UTSA, group of 6, excuse me. UTSA at Rice. A little bit of a drop off here, Teddy, from Florida, Georgia to UTSA versus Rice. 383, 384, the rotation number here, guys. Rice, -4 in the hook, home favorites, 46.5 being the total in this one, Teddy.
The only drop off is just in terms of recognition. From a betting standpoint, UTSA Rice could be every bit as good or better than Florida Georgia. Florida Georgia gets the TV billing. Last year, the Roadrunners win 31-27 as 5.5-point home dogs. In 2018, they win 20-3 as 1-point road dogs. And it's a UTSA, they're 4-4 in the season. Their 3 Division I wins have come by 3 points against Texas State, by 2 against Middle Tennessee, and by 1 against Louisiana Tech. So it's not like it's been easy for this team to win a whole lot of games by margin at any point this season. And in this game, they're going to have to win by margin in order to cover the number. Of course, Rice is 1-1. They're a couple of field goal doinks away from being 2-0. I don't know if you caught the 4. I mean, a 4 doink field goal is worth something, man. But they didn't go in, and that's why they're not 2-0 right now. They are 1-1. And look, I mean, the Owls are running, we call it a Stanford-style offense.
Yeah.
They've got the big-time rusher in Yuma Otoviano at 111 yards rushing in the win over Southern Miss last time around. They've got a senior QB, Mike Collins. He's been pretty good, 8 touchdown passes in 2 starts. So there are things to like about the Rice Owls right now. And UTSA, I mean, they've been struggling of late. They had a promising start. Frank Harris hadn't thrown a touchdown pass in the last 2 outings since returning to the starting lineup. They've lost straight up in 4 of their last 5. It's not a game that I have a strong take on by any stretch of the imagination. But I know it's difficult to lay points in a series like this one. Rice, not a team I'm excited about laying any type of number with.
Good stuff, Teddy. We got Proud Babylonian, Adam, Howard, Dro, Aaron Williams, all you guys. Welcome in the chat box. Johnny Outlaw, appreciate you guys joining us live. Simulcast on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Also, wherever you're downloading your podcast at the Sports Memo Podcast. This is the every game on the board, college football style. This is the last as we're going from the Florida-Georgia game down to the end of the card. We got Charlotte versus MTSU up next. We see the 49ers. That's the Charlotte 49ers, Teddy. -4 in the hook. Road favorites here. 64.5 being the total in Murfreesboro.
Aaron Williams in the chat. I love it. Hey, Aaron, what's going on? I met Aaron maybe, 15 years ago. Maybe more than that. I don't know that I've seen him since. He always pops up. I appreciate that. Hopefully we'll see you again in the not too distant future. Charlotte last year, they were +4. They won the game 34-20. In 2018, Charlotte was +15, and they lost 21-13, so they covered the number. So from a point spread perspective, they've been the better team in each of the last 2 years. And again, winning by 2 touchdowns to the dog last year and being competitive in a game where they were double-digit dogs the year before, speaks to these 49ers. Now, look, Middle Tennessee, 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. But they only have 2 straight-up wins during that span. They've just been losing by less than they were supposed to. Middle also with 3 straight overs after a 3-1 to the understart. And that's no surprise for a Stockstill team. They're not known for their defense. Offensively, after some early season struggles, I've seen improvement from Middle Tennessee over the course of the last month. Charlotte got blasted at Duke last week. They didn't cover -17.5 against UTEP the week before, which tells us they've had a grand total of 1 win and cover all year in the same game. I don't want a team that wins and doesn't cover, or covers and doesn't win, because they got to win and cover here. They've done it once this year. That came against North Texas on the road. We'll give them credit for that, but they're not a team that has done this easily. The QB, Chris Reynolds, running the spread option attack where we're not seeing a whole lot of big plays. Middle Tennessee, gets the OT win at Rice. They're a rested team coming off a bye. Asher O'Hara is one of these QBs who can make plays. The offensive line struggled early. It's been better of late. And, of course, Middle in revenge for a pretty ugly loss last year. They scored first and then allowed the 49ers to score the next 34 points in what was a blowout loss. So, Middle's covering numbers, slight lean to the Blue Raiders.
Teddy, next game up, heading to the SEC here, 387, 388, 3:30 Eastern kick. Vanderbilt at Mississippi State. We're seeing Mississippi State minus 19 in the hook at home, 44.5 being the total. Teddy, we got a 44 out there, 44.5 is the total with almost a 20-point favorite here. This is kind of rarefied air in terms of how much the home team is laying, and with such a low total here, I almost look towards Vandy.
Yeah, I mean, Vandy's freshman quarterback, Ken Seals, he's going to have the experience edge in this ball game. And the new offensive coordinator, Todd Fitch, they brought it from La Tech. They showed some signs in garbage time against Ole Miss, the first time that they've really been able to move the ball at all. Seals for 319 passing yards in that ball game, which is certainly a sign in the right direction. But, of course, they lost that game 54-21. The fact that they moved the football in the second half of garbage time doesn't make me think that this new offense is actually working yet. And prior to the 54-21 loss for Vandy was 41-7 to South Carolina and 41-7 to LSU. And you and I both know neither South Carolina nor LSU nor Ole Miss, none of those teams are the cream of the crop in the SEC this year. So they're getting shellacked by the medium teams, Mm-hmm. So, if I have a free bet, I'm not laying with Mississippi State. Okay? It's no shock that Mississippi State is struggling in Mike Leach's first year in Starkville. Okay? Well, they averaged 7 points a game in their last 4 games, all of which have gone under, and all of which the offense hasn't worked. And now we're going to use Will Rogers instead of KJ Costello. It doesn't matter. These are recruits designed for a different system. The team, from all indications, there are team chemistry issues for Mississippi State right now. They're not a team I want to lay, close to 3 touchdowns with. So if I have to play it, I'm with you on Vandy. And Vandy doesn't have Javion Marlowe this week. He's missed his 3rd straight game. And in terms of offensive guys who you can be excited about, they're the Frost QB maybe, Marlowe, 4.5 yards per carry average. He looked explosive. I don't usually worry about running backs, but it's certainly not a good thing for the Commodores to be without a back that they may well need if they're going to kill some clock and cover this number. Really hard game. I don't want either team.
Teddy, heading to the Sun Belt here. We got Arkansas State versus Louisiana Lafayette. We're seeing Lafayette, or we'll just call them the Ragin' Cajuns here. I think they have dropped the Lafayette off of their official name. But either way, minus 14 at home, 68 now the total. We've seen a big push here towards the over, Teddy.
Yeah, Lafayette's got the best nickname in sports. Just call them Lala. Louisiana Lafayette, LALA.
I like it.
Yeah, that's what that's been my – I got mental nicknames for all these teams a lot of times. I don't use many of them on air because some of them are wildly inappropriate. But
can you give us a little taste? What's one that's inappropriate here?
Not going there. Instead of the Cowboys, we call Oklahoma State the Cowgirls. It's just one of those things. It's just in my head. It's nothing to do with Oklahoma State. It's just one of the, there's plenty of them.
Okay.
That's not wildly inappropriate. It's only modestly inappropriate. Last year, Louisiana Lafayette laying 6 on the road. They win 37-20. The year before, they were +3 at home. They win 47-43. So back-to-back wins in the series for the Ragin' Cajuns. This year's been different. And look, they lost that game to UAB. And I'm like, all right, well, this was a team that was talking about going undefeated, talking about running the table, what's going to happen if they lose their first game. And they continue to win. That said, if you've been trying to lay points with the Ragin' Cajuns this year, you've gotten your ass kicked. They're 0-4 against the spread when laying more than a touchdown. That includes the outright upset loss to Coastal Carolina and last week's non-covering 10-point win against Texas State. Defensively, they haven't been good enough. The intensity hasn't been there for 60 minutes repeatedly for this team. They're doing enough to win. They're not doing enough to cover. Arkansas State last 2 games have been as ugly as it gets. They lost 45-17 against App State and then 38-10 against Troy. Both those games stayed under, despite the fact they gave up 38 and 45 points. after cashing 4 straight overs to begin the season. But the reason they stayed under is because the offense didn't work, not because the defense got better. This has been a rough defense of late. The last 3 games, more than 530 yards, 45 points per game allowed. I don't trust a lot of cover numbers. I don't trust the Red Wolves to get stops. I guess I lean slightly to the over in this one, but nothing that I'm that close to get to the betting window.
I'm with you in that one, Teddy. We're moving to the Mountain West here. We got 393, 394, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific kick. A little bit of a degenerate feel here, Teddy.
Yeah.
With Hawaii playing on the island. We got the Rainbow Warriors here, minus 15.5 home favorites, 62.5 being the total. New Mexico, interesting handicap themselves, Teddy. I mean, their home base is now, I believe, here in Las Vegas. They're not practicing at home anymore. How much does that factor into this line?
A lot. To the line, I don't know how much it factors into the line. I think it does definitely factor into the handicap. And I love the fact that, again, I'm like trained for Saturdays. Like my body is trained to be prepared to watch 4 sets of games. Mm-hmm. You watch your 9 o'clock Pacific time. You watch your 12:30s. You watch your 4 o'clock games, 4:30, 5 o'clock starts. And then the whole set of late games, which we haven't had this year. We had a couple last week. This week we have a full slate with the Pac-12 and the Mountain West. And I love these late games. Number one, nobody on the East Coast is up still to watch them. And I say nobody, I'm being facetious. Obviously, there are people that do watch them. But when you're watching the late night West Coast games, I'm telling you, the info goes like unreported. Nobody's paying attention to where they feel that they're all gassed out from all the top 25 matchups during the day. If you're paying attention to these late night West Coast matchups, Pac-12, Mountain West, there are tidbits you will gain, and there may well be money to be made. So I'm excited about having that last set of games, because when there's a set, that if there's 1 or 2 games, sometimes you get distracted. You're like, I've been doing this all day. When I got a set and I can click back and forth, and of course I got the 3 TV set up here in my office. When I've got 3 games or more to watch, I don't go anywhere, and that will be the case on Saturday night this week. Hawaii 45-31 last year over New Mexico. Didn't play in 2018 or 2017. First home game for Warriors new head coach Todd Graham. Now Hawaii's been terrible as Aloha Stadium favorites. 7-18 since 2014 in this role. And I think it's even worse than that against D1 competition. So it's been, this hasn't been their role under other head coaches. We'll see what it is under Graham. And look, last week was a rough game at Wyoming. Hawaii's not built to play Wyoming games in November. The QB really struggled. Sivan Cordero was 11 of 26 passing. And I watched the game. He looked flustered throughout. He had a really rough game. He was missing open receivers. One would think back in the home venue, he'll feel a little bit more comfortable this week. Now, the Lobos left on Monday a caravan of 5 buses from Albuquerque to Henderson. So they didn't fly here. They took a bus here, which means they're on the – I've made that trip. It's an all-day trip, It's a long day on the bus.
Through the desert.
Yeah. You're on the bus all day. There's that's not a trip you're going to make in 3 hours or 5 hours. It's a long bus ride on Monday. Then they created their own self-sealed bubble at Henderson, and they're using the Hilton Lake Las Vegas Resort and Spa as their temporary headquarters on the far. That's way out of town for what it's worth. Those of you who don't know Las Vegas, it's at least half hour from the Strip, I would think, as far east as it gets. They're supposed to fly to Hawaii, to Honolulu on Friday morning, and then play the following night. And then they don't know what they're going to do yet. They may either come back to Nevada, or they may go back to New Mexico. Here's a quote from the QB, Tavaka Tuioti, talking about the biggest differences between playing or being in this bubble versus being at home. Quote, "It's pretty busy because we still keep the game schedule as if we were in Albuquerque. But the thing is now we just get extra meeting times with the coaches. We're seeing them 24/7. It's not like every day seeing them half the day. There's no downtime." Is that a positive? It might be, On the other hand, Danny Gonzalez, the head coach for New Mexico, is one of these. He's an anal guy. Okay. Here's his quote. Back in July, I had every week planned out until the end of the season. So I threw that book up in the air, and we just start it over every night. When I can get into the bedroom at night, I get 2 or 3 schedules of what we're going to do, and I can pull one out of a hat and say, okay, here we go. So while there's more prep, the coach is telling us there's also less prep for whatever that's worth. I was impressed with New Mexico last week. I know they didn't cover that. They didn't play it wasn't a 60 minutes of good football. I thought there were signs, particularly offensively. There were things to like about the Lobos a week ago. And this, given Hawaii's trouble in this point spread range, I could only look in New Mexico's direction.
Great analysis there, Teddy. That's what this podcast is about. The drive from Albuquerque here in Henderson, it could actually be a good thing with the more time with the coaches. I feel like this is a great game to see where the Lobos are at, Teddy. And if they don't look very good, especially with the unknown after this week, it could really become a fade candidate. But if they look good and it is working towards their favor, heck, who knows? This could be a run one way or the other. You got any comments on that with the Lobos going forward?
And again, I watched them once. I watched them last week, and I thought they were better. And mentally, when you're watching a team for the first time, you have a mental idea. Are they good? Are they bad? And my mental idea of the Lobos, they were supposed to be terrible, and they weren't. So they looked better.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I thought they would. If they look better than I thought, then I expected them to do again this week. And still, that would be an optimal scenario. I know that they look good again this week, but they're not particularly competitive in Hawaii. There might be some money to be made on that team. There really might.
Yeah, especially because the Bob Davie, era, it's going to be interesting how long that kind of, relevates here in Albuquerque with the recruiting and everything, because they were a great bet against for the last couple of years. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but as Bob Davie was, going off into the sunset there as the New Mexico head coach, you made a lot of money if you were betting against New Mexico the last 3 or 4 years. So we got Western Kentucky versus FAU up next, Teddy, in Conference USA. We're going sub 40 with this total, Teddy, 39.5 across the board. WKU versus FAU. We're seeing FAU minus 6.5. There is a -7 out there in Boca Raton.
And I was just glancing at one of the reference books, and they had the best season against the spread for the Lobos in the last 3 years prior to this year was a 4-cover season. They play 12 games a year.
Nice stat there, Teddy.
The best of the 3.
Yeah.
Florida Atlantic wins 35-24 last year. They win 34-15 in 2008. Western Kentucky hasn't covered a game since last November. Okay. Last November. It's this November. All right. Their offense has gained 300 yards or more one time this season. They played 7 games. They've lost 3 straight to Florida Atlantic by an average margin of 15 points a game. The defense is playing fine.
Mm-hmm.
The offense, out of I think there's 101 or 100 teams that are ranked, that have played enough games that they're ranked. The offense is 96th, in yards and 95th in scoring. And the Florida Atlantic defense has been solid. They really have 13 points a game, 3 yards per carry, which is some of that's their pass rush, but their pass rush has been devastating. 13 sacks in 3 games so far. We like Jim Leavitt as a defensive coordinator. But FAU, like Western Kentucky, offensively, this is a work in progress. Nick Trani sacked 7 times the last 2 games. He's not accurate. He's not elusive. They don't have a whole lot of downfield weapons. This total is at 30. Have you seen a total under 40 in college football this year? I don't think we have.
I don't think so.
Yeah, this total's under 40 for a reason. 1st to 20 wins. Lean under.
Yeah. Okay. Teddy, the next game up, heading back to the SEC here, cross-division game, Texas A&M at South Carolina. We're seeing the Aggies -10 here, laying doubles in the SEC on the road, 58.5 being the total in Columbia.
Yeah, I got all these notes for Louisiana Tech and North Texas, and that game has been canceled again with COVID issues today, unfortunately. So what I try to do, I try to have notes for every game, so I'm not just going off the top of my head. But it's okay to do, the work that you do. If you already did work on this game and not going to play it, the stuff still stays in your head for next time. Let's talk A&M against South Carolina. The Aggies, 30-6 victory last year. They were minus 11 at home. In 2018, they won 26-23. Also a win and cover. They were minus 2 in that ball game at South Carolina. Gamecocks, look, they're 2-3. The wins have come against Vandy, which everyone's going to beat. And they did have the upset win at Auburn. But even that, I mean, Auburn's not great. They've gotten better. But the 2 wins they have, you say, okay, you have to beat Vandy, and you had a good game at Auburn. Losses to Tennessee, Florida, and the ugly blowout at LSU before the bye. They were 3-0-1 against the spread before that game, so they have been point spread moneymakers this season, despite the fact that they're 2-3 straight up. And look, it was the loss at LSU. It was a little bit fluky. There were some big plays early, and then that put the Gamecocks in trouble. And they're not built to come from multiple scores behind. They've had a week off to regroup since that. I think that definitely helps South Carolina. And, of course, we talk about South Carolina. They're a team that brought in a graduate transfer QB in Colin Hill, along with his former head coach in Mike Bobo. Mm-hmm. So it's not like for 2 guys from Colorado State. So you say, yeah, some Colorado State quarterback is here. Yeah, but this, he's working in an offense he's familiar with. And it's been a pretty good offense. I'm not looking at the Gamecocks and saying, all right, this team can't move the football. Like Kevin Harris moving he's averaging more than 100 yards per game. I like this spot for South Carolina. I do. They're absolutely on my short list this week. Much like betting against Texas A&M was on my short list last week. You asked me at the end of the pod, what's my favorite one? I said I want to bet against the Aggies. And I was wrong. Dead wrong. Except for that, they still covered the spread. Kellen Mond had a good game last week, and it was 5 consecutive drives for Texas A&M where they got the kick and punched into the end zone. 35 points. Boom, boom, boom. They didn't start off well. They didn't do anything down the stretch to try to score. And the defense played prevent at the end. And lo and behold, last drive of the game is Arkansas marching down the field into the end zone and getting in through the back door. That's the danger of laying a price with the Aggies. And you look at Kellen Mond, and Mond has been better this year, flat out. I keep on saying Mond's for mediocre, Mond's for, the M in Mond is for miserable. He's been better this year. He was good last week. But when you look at his numbers, Kyle Field versus road games, it's not close. Last 7 road games, 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's not the type of ratio I'm looking for out of my double-digit favorites. Dog or pass for me.
Teddy, I'm with you. I think this dog is actually barking. When you just do kind of a quick glance at this, you think Texas A&M, people out there talking about, heck, possible college football playoff if it kind of rolls right for them. And sure enough, they're going on the road, laying doubles in the SEC, facing a team off of a bye. You bring up, the Colin Hill, Mike Bobo, the same system, the same quarterback coming over. And don't forget, Muschamp, say what you want about him as a head coach. He can coach up defense. Yep. I'm with you. I think the Gamecocks are barking here. I got some South Carolina plus 10. I bet them on the money line as well for whatever that's worth out there, guys. We got 401, 402 Clemson versus Notre Dame up next. A lot of people saying, and it likely is, the game of the weekend here, Teddy. We got the number 1 ranked Clemson Tigers -4.5 or -5 in South Bend. They're the road favorites here, Teddy. 50.5 being the total.
So I remember the last time these two teams met, I met it well because I had a big bet on Clemson, so did my clients, and it was easy. 30-3 Clemson. They were laying 10.5. That was in the BCS bowl game, the BCS semifinal, championship semifinal game in 2018. The Irish, of course, didn't make that type of run last year. Now, Trevor Lawrence is out. Xavier Thomas, the junior defensive end, who's, I don't know where he's going to get drafted. This guy's a monster. He won't be on the field for the first half. He got ejected for targeting in the second half last week against Boston College. A couple other Clemson starters on defense aren't going to make the trip. The defense tackle Tyler Davis, first team All-ACC in 2019. He's out. And the starting linebacker Mike Jones also out for Clemson in this ballgame. So obviously of all those names, the one that stands out is Lawrence. Now, when you think about DJ, and I'm going to Uigaralele, there's like a V or an R or an N, and it's not. I know it's Ui and then Lele. I just got the middle messed up.
DJ works, Teddy. DJ works.
Yeah, but it's more fun to say Ui Argalele.
Okay.
I'll have it by this week. I watched him last week and I still didn't get the name down. So it goes to Sean Watson, did Sean Watson go number 1 overall? No, he was too small.
No, I don't.
No, he didn't. But he was first rounder.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence is going to go first overall, and then the next starting quarterback for Clemson is going to be this ukulele guy. Not ukulele, Uigalele. He's, blue chip prospect, played for big time school in California. This kid's a monster. Okay. Last week, first start, everything goes wrong. You're down by, more than 2 scores, 20-13 in that ball game. What DJ do? Chill out, run the offense, march team down the field, up and down. A couple of scores, 342 passing yards, and they win the game. It was an impressive showing, and I have no reason to think it'll be any different this time around. Look, we've seen Notre Dame. These are 2 teams that have been significant money losers this season. Okay, both of them combined 4-point spread covers. And Notre Dame last week, that was a brutal beat. It was a tough beat if you had the Irish, where they, with the 93-yard fumble return going the other way, there was a 14-point swing, and then they take a knee at the end inside the 5 and only win by 18, laying 20 and a half. But Notre Dame hasn't been covering numbers this year. And when the Irish and Ian Book and that offense have tried to step up in class, they scored 3 against Clemson the last time. They had Georgia and Michigan last year. It didn't work. All right. Maybe Notre Dame's a little bit better this year, but I'll tell you what, if I'm playing this one, I'm laying. Even with Clemson not having Trevor Lawrence behind center.
Teddy, you bring up the fact of, the Notre Dame sitting on it and they could have punched it in again. In just kind of a handicapping question to you. What do you think about kind of keeping records, just, proprietary records here of like Brian Kelly notching that down, and just keeping kind of mental notes here of the head coaches that look to kind of punch it in at the end and the head coaches that will kind of sit back and ATS records, it's not on their mind. Do you do any of that?
I do a ton of that. Now, so each week as I'm watching the games, all right, like I said, I have a 3 TV setup in my office, and what I usually do is have my primary game and then my secondary game on each TV, so I can click back and forth between 2 games on each TV, right? The one universal remote's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a nice setup, and I thank you, Ed Hogan, for setting it up for me. I lost track completely now. What were you asking me?
Just if you keep track of
yes, okay. So as I'm watching these games, what I'll do is I'll write down all 12 team names, right? And if I see something, I make a note. I jot it down. I make a note. I jot it down. And at the end of the game, I'll do the same thing for all 4 sets of games. So in theory, at the end of the day, I could have notes on as many as 48 teams on any given day. At the end of the day, I'll go back through those notes, and this is another reason why Saturdays are so long. But I go back through the notes. I make some adjustments. Sometimes you have a reaction. You're like, no, that's not even close to what happened in this game. You take something out. You put something else in. And then I take those notes and transfer them to a bigger file where I have notes on every team for each on all the teams through the course of the season. So you have notes for each game, and then you have, this is how they look this week. And you don't necessarily watch every team play every week, but over the course of the season, I'm going to see just about every team play 4, 5, 6 times. And I'll have all these notes on them. And included in that is all kinds of little tidbits like that. Then, as I'm doing the handicap for any given game and any week, I call up those notes that I've made on those teams and those coaches and those players, and I read through them as I'm considering the particular games that I'm doing the handicap on. So it's stuff that I do pay attention to. it doesn't always make the difference between making a bet and not making a bet. But it's one of those things that has worked for me very well over the years because it makes you so mad when you make a mental note on something. A team back in September, you say, "Oh, I never want this team as a dog, but I always want them as a favorite." And then like November rolls around, and you're like, "Oh crap, I took them as a dog. How did that happen?" With my system now, that doesn't happen nearly as much because I'm going through all those notes. So yeah, it's a ton of notes. But I mean, it's what we do, Drew. This is, I mean, when I got nothing better to do than take notes and watch games, man. That's my job. So the answer is yes. I did note that Brian Kelly has done that. It's not the first time Kelly has done that. It makes one of the reasons why Brian Kelly is a favorite hasn't been all that good.
Yeah. Well said, Teddy. And glad you answered it the way you did, because that's something I've revved up in my handicapping. And I think it's actually helped me out a lot because it's something that will repeat itself out there, guys. Head coaches that kind of sit on the ball and don't care as much about the ATS. And then there's, the Lane Kiffins of the world that, go pedal to the metal, the Urban Meyers of the world, where, they'll run it up a little bit. The Penn State head coach.
Did you see what Matt Campbell did last week?
Remind me.
Matt, so they're playing Kansas. Right, Iowa State's playing Kansas, and the game's over.
Okay.
All they got to do is, I think, 1 or 2 first downs and take a knee, and Iowa State back-to-back long passes, touchdown to cover the number.
Oh yeah,
which is not what Campbell's done in the past.
Okay. So could something be changing, or the boosters in his ear now at Iowa State? Who knows? But something to know.
That was absolutely worth noting. Like there was something that happened last week that I'm like, because my notes on Campbell is he'll take a knee, and that was not the case last week.
Okay, so finding change as a sports bettor, something that is a winning component here. And Teddy, thanks for clarifying that. Follow him on Twitter. Good follow, guys, at Teddy_covers. Myself on Twitter at Drew Martin Betts. Is a college football every game on the board podcast wherever you're downloading your podcasts at. Also simulcast on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Check out Teddy's work at WagerTalk or sportsmemo.com off of a 5-0 100% football weekend. Check it out. NFL 5% full season at 67%, and his NFL record 202 and 158. That's 56% since 2015. So long-term track record there in the NFL. Very good. Check them out, Sports Memo and WagerTalk.com. Teddy, 2 games left. Then we'll get a top play from you, a top confidence play for this section, if you would. 403-404 Tennessee at Arkansas. We're seeing the Volunteers -2 in Fayetteville, 52.5 the total, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, I cashed with Arkansas last week, and there are things to like about the Razorbacks, all right? There really are. The QB play has been good. Barry Odom's defense they're not an ultra-talented defense, by any stretch of the imagination. Schematically, though, I've been impressed, and at times they're able to get pressure on the opposing quarterback, which makes a big difference, especially for a guy like Guarantano, who has not done well under pressure. He's only thrown 6 touchdown passes in 5 games. But note the fact that we're looking at a different type of point spread range for Arkansas right here. Okay. They got to win in order to cover this number, or lose by a single point, which I'm not going to bet that they're going to do that. You have to assume Arkansas is going to win. And they're not a team that's necessarily easy to win games. Talent-wise, Tennessee's got a lot more talent than they do. The question is, what's going on up here with Tennessee? 3 straight ugly losses. And again, 2 of them came against the elites. They had Georgia and Alabama, which said, okay, you guys aren't ready for the big boys yet. We're having issues. The defensive line coach that may or may not have been fired during the Kentucky game. Jeremy Pruitt appears to be under increasing stress and pressure, which I swear has happened to every Tennessee coach for the last since Phil Fulmer left. Mm-hmm. I'm starting. You don't want to say it, but I'm starting to think that Tennessee as a program might be in the hopeless category.
Wow.
Right now, considering where they were as a recruiting base, they don't get the recruits anymore. And then none of the last 5 coaches have been able to do it. They were the class of the SEC East, and for them in Florida every year, and now they're South Carolina-ish. Not a game I plan on betting. I cashed my ticket with Arkansas last week. I don't necessarily I don't want to ask Arkansas to win the game. I only want to ask them to not lose by more than 2 touchdowns, that sort of thing. Pass.
And Teddy, interesting what you said there about Tennessee. You know, the program has come a long way since the Peyton Manning, T. Martins. Those quarterbacks they won the national championship the year after Peyton Manning. He's now an offensive coordinator somewhere. But anyway, interesting that how far that they've dropped off since the Philip Fulmer years. And about this particular game, I mean, guys, you want to talk about, going through the card before, the circa openers here in Vegas and making a number. This was an interesting one. And we're seeing, Doug's in the chat box saying Arkansas 5-0 ATS. That's mattering in this line. I mean, when you went through, I was wondering, is Arkansas going to come out as a favorite here? Before the season, a lot of people were saying Arkansas is, the bottom team in the SEC, but ATS records matter, Teddy.
Oh, they matter a lot. And it's certainly, again, we talk about betting bandwagons. It's something that I bring up a fair bit. They have a betting bandwagon. Tennessee does not. And what you see is when a team cashes 1 week, nobody pays attention. They cash 2 weeks, a couple people pay attention. They cash 3 weeks, a couple more. They cash 4 weeks, a couple more. And then, you cover 5 in a row. All of a sudden, you got a decent-sized bandwagon. You look at Tennessee, they failed to cover 1 week. Oh, they're no good. Oh, I'm done. Back-to-back losses. Oh, I'm definitely not betting them. The third week, no freaking way. And they don't take any public money. So not that public money moves point spreads, but when one team continues to cover and the other team does not cover, it absolutely is going to move the needle ATS-wise. And that's why we're looking at a game here where basically it's winner covers. And if you're grading out these two teams, Tennessee has a lot more talent.
Teddy, last game up here. We're closing it out with a good one. UMass versus Marshall. And I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek here, guys. We got 55.5 being the total, and Marshall laying 45. Speaks a lot to the Minutemen this year, Teddy. Any interest at all in getting involved with UMass versus Marshall?
So when a spread hits 40 in college football, I can tell you flat out I'm not playing the game. Once in a while, you find a total move. You find it, you're like, all right, the underdog can score, so I like the over. Or the underdog is definitely not going to score, so I like the under. So once in a while, you can find a total play in these. From a side standpoint, when we talk about the games with 40 plus point spreads, it's a mismatch. Okay, Marshall can win by whatever they want to win in this ball game. What happens when they're up 35-0 at halftime? And when you play a game like this, maybe you lay with the favorite in the first half. Make case. Full game, they're up 35-0 at halftime. There's nothing for them to do. Now, Marshall did win a game, 59-0 to open the season against FCS competition. But look, UMass is FCS competition in FBS form. What are they playing? 3 games this year? The first one was early October.
Schedule more. They're trying to schedule more.
Yeah. But right now, I saw 3 games on their schedule. The first one was a month ago, and they lost 41-0 at plus 31. You want them this week? It has nothing to do with this game. This is what you do with this game. Pass.
You must pass from Dro in the chat box. So, Teddy, that does it for college football. Every Game on the Board podcast. We hit them all, guys. You can watch the replay here. If you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a comment below on the YouTube channel. And also, we got Section 4, Section 3, Section 2, and 1, all in past form on the YouTube channel and podcast form, Sports Memo Podcast. Teddy, did you have a most confident play for this section?
So what did we do last week right here? We went against Texas A&M. What are we going to do this week right here? We're going to go against Texas A&M. And the price is too high. Give me the Gamecocks plus the 10. Stands out to me. Absolutely. What about you?
Home dog catching doubles in the SEC off of a bye. I like it, Teddy. I'm with you. Let's double it up here on the Gamecocks plus 10 across the board, hosting Texas A&M with their eyes on the playoff. Maybe they run it up. I don't think so, though. Not with my money, Teddy. So I'm with you. South Carolina plus 10.
Cool. We're on the same boat.
All right, Teddy. Anything you want to throw out there before we shut this down, man?
I want to say that, man. We're getting a ton of chats in the chat, ton of posters in the chat. We really appreciate that, all you guys. Thank you. Go to the bar, go to the beach, go have fun. And we'll be back and doing it again next podcast.
Next podcast, next Wednesday, next Thursday, guys, we'll be out with the college football, NFL, every game on the board podcast. So come back and join us. Please smash the like button. It does help us out. The top confidence play here, South Carolina Gamecocks +10 at home off of a bye. Always something interested in there. For Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_covers. I'm on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Guys, best of luck with your bets. Thanks for tuning in and have a fun, safe weekend.